get set to vote on a new president, hackers take aim at one of the candidates. We're covering this story from all angles live in France. Protesters in Venezuela come out in force as the death toll from the weeks of unrest continues to grow. And get set, one of the most glamorous sporting horse race events is set to take off very shortly. Hello, I'm Lynda Kinkade. Welcome to CNN Newsroom. We begin with a bombshell in France on the eve of one of the nation's biggest presidential races in decades. Voting is just hours away, and French citizens living outside the country have already started casting their ballots. Voters are deciding between centrist Emmanuel Macron and the far-right Marine Le Pen. And now Macron's campaign says thousands of its documents have been leaked online. Well, CNN's Isa Soares has more on from a Le Pen stronghold. But first, I want to go to our Paris correspondent, Melissa Bell, for more on these hacking allegations. Melissa, just what are you learning about the extent of this hack and what was involved?
It was a fairly extensive hack. We have an idea of the size of the leaks, thousands of documents. Some say the Macron team were actually hacked emails, party correspondence, campaign correspondence. Part, though, they say, were fakes that were put into the mix to kind of add to the confusion. This is something that's also been confirmed, by the way, Lynda, by the Electoral Commission, which meant this morning, which warns that there are amongst the genuine hacked emails from the Macron team, fake ones too, and therefore to be extremely vigilant. And of course, we're in this media blackout period. They do not want it changed. Now, when the Macron team announced these leaks last night, just after they'd occurred, they explained that this operation is clearly meant to undermine democracy, just like it happened in the US during the last presidential campaign. Clearly, therefore, Lynda, linking what they believe they have been a victim of, a deliberate attempt to hack their campaign and sabotage their chances, linking that directly to what went on around Hillary Clinton's campaign in the run-up to the US election.
Yeah, major concerns there, so close to the voting. Just stand by for us, Melissa. I want to bring in Isa Soares, who's in Marine Le Pen heartland. How much attention is this issue getting there?
Not much, to be completely honest with you. The majority of people I've been speaking to today, they say they've already made up their minds, Lynda, way before this came out, which was yesterday about 11 o'clock or so. Of course, like we heard Melissa saying, media here abiding by the Electoral Commission's rules to not report any of the contents, but people are aware of the leak. The local papers here, La Voix du Nord, The Voice of the North, not even talking about a campaign at all. But people, there was two friends, elderly friends, who were having a beer in a local bar, and I asked them where they stood on the issue, and then one of them said to me, look, I'm a Macron supporter, I will continue to vote Macron because it's a vote against Le Pen. His friend sitting opposite him was actually a Le Pen supporter. So people clearly have made up their minds, but it's worth pointing out to the majority of our viewers that this is Le Pen heartland. Majority of people were already voting for Le Pen regardless of what may be in the content of those emails.
All right, Isa, just stand by for us. Let's just go back to Melissa. Macron is a former investment banker. He has been endorsed by former US President Barack Obama, but we are hearing that there is expected to be a low turnout when it comes to people voting. How is that all going to impact the outcome?
Oh, it's a crucial question for him and the size of the score that he's able to reach tomorrow, which of course will then have implications for his ability to go into the parliamentary elections that follow in June with a fair degree of certainty that he can get some MPs voted in the name of his movement. Because of course the thing about Emmanuel Macron is that he's something of a political experiment here in France. No one's ever reached the Elysee without the benefit of an established party behind them, without any experience also of elected office. This is precisely what he's hoping to achieve by winning the vote tomorrow. If he does that, then he's going to have to go about the very difficult process of finding himself parliamentarians in the parliament in order to have a majority with which he can govern. So in a sense, this story really begins once Macron has won, if Macron wins. This is part of the reason, I think, why the French have had trouble gathering around his candidature. There is skepticism among some part of the electorate that he can go on to be an effective leader given the circumstances of his election. And there are those who are simply worried about his economic liberalism, his centrist stance. You know, the French tend to be quite ideological. They have backed two parties systematically over the course of the last few decades, both of which are now out of the first round. So Emmanuel Macron's real challenge, what he's hoping, is that more people will go out for him to vote for him tomorrow than did in the first round, and that he'll have managed to convince those people who normally back the mainstream parties that he can be trusted with the future of France.
Right, and of course, this isn't the first time that he has faced, or at least been the target of hackers. Just back to Isa Soares on this. Has there been any response from Le Pen's camp?
Yeah, we heard in as soon as we got news of this data stash, this emails that came out, we heard from the Front National, member of the Front National, who I'm tweeting. I'm just going to read out in English where it says, "Will the Macron leak give us information that investigative journalism has deliberately killed?" It asks. "The sinking of democracy is frightening." So that's the only thing we have heard from the Front National on this matter. But Lynda, the mood here is one of not really of celebration or festivity. The heavens have now opened, but earlier on it looked like a normal day in a French town. People had been drinking, the sun was out, there's a football match, there's actually a circus in town, and people had made up their minds of which way they're voting. Interestingly, of course, this is a mayor of this town, this Front National, one of 12 towns in France that have Front National mayors, and it has brought plenty of change in this town. Taxes have been lower, they're spending money on infrastructure. So regardless of the outcome, told me one man, who said Marine Le Pen isn't going to win, but she's still going to get my vote because she's going to bring in change. The previous mayor, important to note, has been convicted of embezzlement. So people know exactly who they want to see in power, and it's not Emmanuel Macron.
All right, certainly a lot to cover, a lot to keep you two busy. Isa Soares and Melissa Bell, thank you very much.